Hey y'all, welcome back to Mountain Murders Offbeat. I'm Heather.
And I'm Dylan.
And I'm Johnny.
Oh my God, Johnny.
Just kidding.
Is our special guest, Hose?
Yeah, it's like Jack Nicholson from The Shining, but
Yeah, I feel like Johnny's energy is not going to add anything to the podcast.
I found this shiny axe.
Well, you can keep the axe.
Okay.
Okay, so here we are on Offbeat, and this will be a little bit different, but we're just going to recap some true crime news and carry on a little bit.
Just kind of a loose episode, Dylan.
Yes, it's all rainy outside. There's more moisture in an area where we don't need more rain, so we're just keeping it easy tonight.
We're getting like the remnants of, what is that, Hurricane Ida?
I can't keep track anymore.
There's a lot going on, and I have some friends that live down in the New Orleans area, and it just seems like they've gotten wiped out again.
Well, I mean, I must say for the area, an area built below sea level right next to the sea, I don't know who came up with that design. Like, you need to fill that shit in, bro. You should bring the area up, not just wall it off.
You hush your mouth when you're talking about my favorite city.
I love New Orleans. It's a really cool place, but I mean, this is going to happen again next year, right?
Oh, you got to think positively, Dylan.
If we have any listeners in the area with friends and family there, like Heather has friends there, I wish them the best, and I hope they're safe.
Yeah, I mean, I've got some friends that actually evacuated when out of state, but then they are posting photos of, like, their house. Like, oh, yeah, my landlord took a picture of this, and, like, the roof is gone. And, like, wow, so I guess this means I have to get a whole new couch because it's rained all over my furniture and that kind of thing.
Jeez.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like there's some devastation down that way. Oh, this crazy weather we're having. So, yeah, it's kind of rainy here, and it's one of those days where you just want to, like, put on some comfy pants and kick back, watch some TV.
Harp needs to turn off that weather controlling machine and just give us a break for a little while.
Today is the first day of my diet, and I'm afraid I'm going to be, like, miserable and hangry for the next week. So I'm going to try really hard to be pleasant, Dylan.
So what you're saying is I should arrange some overtime at work.
Probably.
That's probably safest.
Yeah, I went to the gym today and started my diet. And I feel like a big disappointment because for a long time, I went to the gym fairly regularly, like, probably 4 to 5 days a week, and played a sport and was really active, and just, like, kind of stopped about, 2 years ago, I guess. And I felt like such a disappointment. I got on the elliptical, and before I could do like 45 minutes on the elliptical. I could do 45 minutes straight on a stair climber like it was nobody's business. And then today I could barely do 20 minutes on the elliptical. And then I went and got on a bike for like 10 minutes, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm dying.
Well, you got to start back somewhere.
I know.
When I met you, and maybe I'm the bad influence.
You're a very bad influence. I've realized this.
You went like twice a day and shit. So
sometimes.
And you inspired me. I actually was in better shape. So you've let me down as well. So thanks for that.
Your favorite things to do are just like sleep and eat and relax. You're like, at least you just relax. It's like that's your hobby, is just like watching TV and lounging. Resting your hands on like fluffy pillows.
Sitting and looking.
Drinking a beer.
I need to reevaluate. Maybe I chill too much.
Eating some gas station foods.
And, I feel like my hobby of mild investments of some of my savings into an app on my phone's not going to do it.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but the cryptocurrency market should not be your only hobby, bro. You need to get moving with me.
What if I make it like a physical game out of it? If I walk up here, I can put $50 in Doge.
Because your girl needs to lose about 50 pounds.
Well, let's do it. We'll do it together.
I'm trying. I'm going to try to stick to this diet. So hopefully my listeners out there will send words of encouragement. Maybe if you've got some great recipes, some low carb, like keto type recipes, you can send those our way and give us some words of encouragement here and there, because I'm really trying to stick to it this time, Dylan.
Well, enough about you. No, really.
No, really. Let's talk about me. I love it.
I know. So we were just going to recap. It seems to be quite a bit of true crime news out.
Yeah, you've got some interesting stuff to tell us about.
I can tell. So I'll open up with a case out of Texas. Authorities in Texas are searching for a 26-year-old man suspected of murdering a woman who went missing the night she was celebrating her birthday in July. On Monday, Houston police announced in a press conference they had issued an arrest warrant for Jordan Potts in connection with the July 25th murder of 21-year-old Shawteria Waits. I hope I got her name right because she's just the prettiest young girl ever.
Yeah, you were showing me her photo earlier, and she's gorgeous.
Potts' whereabouts remain unknown as police continue to search for him. Now, here's what just blows me away about this story. Waits was last seen alive at a Houston apartment complex on the night of July 25th, according to police. She had been dropped off by her friends at the complex to meet a man who police believed to be Potts. After about an hour wait, Waits' friends were unable to get a hold of her, and Waits was reported missing 2 days later.
So what? She meets this guy.
So it's like her and a few friends, couple friends at the club, hanging out. It's her birthday. She's
Feeling
beautiful.
good.
Yeah.
She's living it up.
It's her 21st.
Living her best life.
It could be her first time to get in the club, have a drink, feel grown up. And they meet this Jordan Potts at the club. And he invites them over to hang at his house. And the friends were like, well, it was never like an after party or anything. It was just like, hang out. I'm going to guess maybe, hey, let's go back. I got, we can have a smoke session or, maybe have another drink.
I got some pizza rolls in the freezer.
Yeah. They're just young people. And so her friends decided not to go in his apartment for whatever reason. And she went in alone. And they never saw her again. And an hour later, they're like, well, where's she at? And no one's heard from her since. And then her remains were discovered. For 2 weeks, the police department's missing persons unit investigated the case until August 13th when evidence of possible foul play was discovered. Waits' case was reassigned to the homicide division. Soon after, investigators obtained a search warrant of Potts' apartment where, according to Houston police, significant physical evidence of a murder was found. Authorities believe Waits was killed the night she went missing, and her body was moved to the Brookshire area, where remains were later found by police on August 27th.
Gosh.
I mean, what is this guy thinking?
Well, I'm just curious, if he has a history of violence towards women, or wonder what happened. Did he try to put the moves on her? She resisted, and then he killed her, lashed out. He had this fragile ego type of thing going on, or is he like a fucking predator?
Well, I mean, I don't understand men who get, how many cases have we talked about or all of us listened to where the guy makes a sexual advance, he's rejected, he gets pissed off and kills the girl, strangles her or whatever. I mean, who does that?
Well, it's
wired
really
like
frightening because, especially when you're young, you want to socialize, you want to hang out, and, I'm not going to say it was always safe, but growing up, I think we felt more comfortable going and hanging out with someone maybe we just met, and nowadays it just seems like that's a terrible idea. And maybe it always was a terrible idea, but I know that I wouldn't feel safe just going to some stranger's house to hang out at my age.
Well, and that's what I wondered. Was it something went wrong? Which, it's really stupid to kill someone, especially over nothing or period. But, if you're protecting something or your life or your family. Or was he just like, I'm going to kill this girl?
It's really sad.
And now her friends, who he invited them all there, now they're left to wonder with a certain type of survivor's guilt. Should we have went in? Could we have helped? Would we have been killed too? That's just horrible.
It's really sad. And this young woman was just starting her life.
21 years old, beautiful, life of the party. It's always the good ones that get taken for some reason. And it seems. And it's just disgusting, and I don't understand. But police authorities did go so far as to say they put out a description of Potts. He's on the run, and for other women to be weary of him because he typically, or he has in the past, made contact with other females through dating apps. They didn't go on to say if they were assaulted or anything like that. but he is apparently known to use dating apps.
Oh, wow.
And they do not know if she made contact before that night, through any type of app or if they just met in the club.
Nowadays, it's almost frightening to even think about getting on a dating app.
Besides getting murdered, which is obviously the worst of it, or assaulted or raped, it's very weird. Like, can we just say dating nowadays is very strange?
It's really odd. It seems difficult to meet someone in a natural way.
Yeah, I think, they say there's that whole problem of swiping. Hey, I like this person. They seem cool, but maybe I can do better, right? Even though, people, they don't even like reflect on what they look like or what they're bringing to the table. It's like always one more swipe. You never know. Maybe they're more perfect for me, or maybe, you know what I mean? It's like almost people get addicted to using the apps or the chance or opportunity to meet someone else so they can miss people who are perfect or been a great match for them just because they keep swiping.
We're living in strange times. But, as we get older, especially, it's harder to meet someone. I mean, typically you would meet someone at school or at your job. And if you work, as a lot of people do now, remotely, work from home, that kind of thing, it's tricky to go out and meet somebody. And, I think there are still, of course, traditional ways you're introduced through mutual friends or something like that. But the days of just like, oh, I'm in a bookstore and I bump into this Prince Charming. I mean, that just seems kind of like it's fallen by the wayside. And I guess it's just our lifestyle. Everything has changed so much over the last 20, 30 years.
Well, and I think those ways, the reason they're cliche is because it worked. Because when you bump into that person, no matter where it is, church, school, work, jogging, whatever, there's that spark, that chemistry sometimes. Like when I met you, though we did meet on a dating site, but the chemistry was still there. And then once I met you in person, but when you meet that person actually in person, you learn a lot of things very quickly, don't you think? It's a little harder for people to hide what they look like, just their energy, their personality, and all these things people hide behind the anonymity of the internet, of these apps. And everybody's trying to take that perfect picture or craft that perfect profile. And oftentimes it doesn't represent who they truly are.
I'm like brutally honest on a dating app. I think I was just like, I'm not a serial killer.
Yeah.
Was basically all I said. And then like,
I won't murder you.
Yeah, something like that.
Something to that effect.
Yeah, because I was like, this is going to weed out people who don't have a good sense of humor.
Yeah.
Right?
You was looking for another true crime fan.
I was, totally.
I can appreciate that.
I was looking for someone to podcast with, and here you are.
Oh, wow.
But, I was in a job where I didn't have a lot of interaction with the public. I was fairly isolated in my work. I was like in a small office setting where I had like, 3 other coworkers or something. So it was not like I was ever going to meet someone through work.
Very unlikely.
Yeah.
Right.
And socially, I mean, maybe, but I lived in a small town, and when you live in a small town, you kind of know everybody, everyone's dating history, everyone's reputation. So I was like not trying to date too many people because I already knew about them and was like, nope, I've heard about you. So I just kind of was like, and moved to the dating site thing and just happened to meet you, and it was great.
Oh, baby.
But, it was hard to meet someone.
Yeah, I was coming out of a very long-term relationship that ended very messily.
Messily?
Yeah, very badly. Just if you could write a book about things you wouldn't want to happen when you split up with someone.
It was the most dysfunctional situation I've ever been exposed to in my entire life. I'm just going to say.
I regret not meeting you sooner, but maybe I wish I'd met you some months or a year later after some of that blew over.
Save some of the drama.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, so what do you have for us?
Well, a lot of folks out there, especially true crime fans, are probably familiar with the killing of the University of Iowa student Molly Tibbetts. She disappeared 3 years ago after going out for an evening run. And there was an arrest made in that case. The fellow's name was Christian Bahina Rivera, and he was actually just given a mandatory conviction, first-degree murder in Iowa, and was sentenced to life in prison without parole. He abducted and killed the young woman. They don't have the death penalty in Iowa. The 27-year-old was a former farmhand. He came to the U.S. illegally from Mexico as a teenager and was jailed back in August of 2018, has been in jail since his arrest. And, he's finally been sentenced. But it's just fuels more fears for a lot of women who are runners and going out on those solo runs, especially young women, college students, and then you get snatched up. So, I mean, I just think that this kind of case sort of seals that fear that a lot of women and young women have of being able to go out and do activities by themselves.
And well, I mean, when you're in these situations, you might not think of it, but you do. I mean, people have sense. They know if something goes wrong and you're in these kind of isolated areas, somewhere maybe not traveled, some people aren't directly around you, you are kind of in a dangerous situation. And I think that's what was so scary about Gary Hilton, the Parkway killer, the Blue Ridge Parkway killer. And our very first case we did was Karen Stiles.
Yes.
And that was the exact scenario.
Young college, recent college graduate goes on a run, gets brutally murdered, gets attacked.
A crime of opportunity. The man just happened to see her. He wanted to get her, and he did, and tortured her and killed her right there in the area where she was grabbed. So that definitely leaves a mark on a community for quite some years.
Tibbetts vanished on a rural road that was just outside of her hometown in Brooklyn, Iowa. The population there's only 1,700.
Wow.
So she probably felt totally safe. She's running in this rural area in her small hometown, probably done it a million times before. She didn't show up for a summer job at a daycare the next morning, so obviously family members, coworkers were really worried that something had gone wrong. They had hundreds of volunteers and law enforcement searching for weeks, but came up empty, and investigators began focusing on Bahina Rivera, who worked under an alias at a nearby dairy farm. After finding a surveillance video that the homeowner's surveillance video at this farm showed this guy's Chevy Malibu repeatedly driving past Tibbetts while she was out for a run.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. So they interrogated him, and he finally led authorities to a cornfield where he had buried her body under leaves and stalks. The only thing visible were her bright running shoes, and an autopsy found that she'd been stabbed several times. Now, this guy said he approached Tibbetts because he found her attractive and that he fought her after she threatened to call the police. He said then he blacked out, and the next thing he remembered was driving with her body in his trunk.
Oh, my God.
So when they found her, she was wearing only socks and a sports bra, and her legs were spread. And that's the thing that's so disturbing about some of these cases is when the assailant leaves the victim in these unsavory poses, almost like taking every bit of dignity from their victim, even in death.
Yeah, and that's done for a reason, I think. A very deep depravity in these people. And like you said, even your remains can't be, if you're posed in some sexually suggestive or nude fashion, that even your remains, or don't even get a last, gram of respect.
Well, that video surveillance was definitely like their biggest piece of evidence, and they built the case around that. He did give that partial confession once they had him in custody, and DNA evidence was found in the trunk of his car. Her blood was found. So, I mean, the guy's going to spend his life in prison, but it's just so sad. And, her family's obviously very upset. Her mother said one of the worst things was having to tell her grandmother what had happened. And the grandmother was just in disbelief because she was like, this is a beautiful, vibrant young woman, so full of promise. Like, who would want to hurt her?
Yeah, I don't even know how you relay that information on to family members. Not only is your loved one gone, Not only have they been killed by someone else, but then the rest of those details, I mean, my God, I don't know how you live with that.
Yeah.
Now you have a kind of, in my mind, an earth-shattering story of someone who may be getting paroled, which I find very, very interesting.
Yeah. So 77-year-old Sirhan, the fellow convicted of assassinating Robert F. Kennedy Jr., has recently gone before a California parole panel, and they voted in favor of his release. Now, he still has to go before like a full board and get approved by the full board and the governor before his release will go through. But they're recommending that this guy be paroled more than 50 years after he was convicted of assassinating the Senator Robert F. Kennedy, who at the time was a presidential candidate.
He was, many felt he was almost a shoe-in. He had just won California. He had all the momentum behind him. The country's still mourning the loss and assassination of his brother, John F. Kennedy, a sitting president. So many felt he was going to be the next president. And so here comes Sirhan out of nowhere in a crowd. And it was like a fundraising function.
At a hotel.
Well, actually, I think that's where they retired to watch the results come in. Him and his Mr. Kennedy and his team, Senator Kennedy, and and they were having a big, how they celebrate. And
They were in San Francisco, right?
I believe so.
Yeah.
And just out of nowhere, shots ring out. Someone sees Mr. Sirhan with the gun, and I'm telling you, there's more than I can go into here. As far as people, saw this strange woman in a polka dot dress that was never questioned, and all these different things. And there's many interesting elements to this story, which I never knew. And I must recommend a podcast called the RFK Tapes. And it goes a very deep dive into this entire situation. And I must say, after you get to the end of that podcast series, you'll have questions in your head about this entire thing. Because the interesting thing about Sirhan was he was, I think he was a foreign national, if that's the right way. Not born in America, but a citizen now. I'm pretty sure that's true. And he was a patriot.
So would he be like a naturalized citizen?
Yeah, I don't know if
something?
foreign national.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
We get what you're trying to say.
So yeah, he came to America, citizen now. He loves America. Many described him as a patriot, like they felt like he was more patriotic than they were or his neighbors, and had expressed no rants about the government, no rants about Robert Kennedy, and was just a normal everyday guy. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he gets a gun. His brother's like he's never had guns like this, and is going to the target range, shooting all day, every day, for like weeks leading up to the assassination. And he claims, I'm sure to this day, to have no memory of like the week preceding the assassination of Robert F. Kennedy.
There's some conspiracy theories floating around that it was almost like a Manchurian candidate kind of thing.
Yes, we
or
get
like MK Ultra.
Yes, definitely. That has been brought up and put forth. And according to him, even under hypnosis and, multiple, very, very renowned psychiatrists, they're like, yeah, he doesn't believe he did it. You know what I mean? He's not lying on that. So could it be a mental break? Sure. But it's very strange.
Well, the slaying of Kennedy probably changed the course of American history when you really think about it. He told two parole commissioners over half a century has passed, and that young, impulsive kid does not exist anymore. Senator Kennedy was the hope of the world, and I injured and I harmed all of them, and it pains me to experience that, the knowledge of such a horrible deed. So this was actually his 16th parole hearing. Since California abolished capital punishment in 1972, his sentence was changed to life, and he's been eligible for release since 1975. Now, the decision was made by a two-person panel, and it will be reviewed by full parole board for 120 days days before it is final. Then the California governor, currently Gavin Newsom, who is facing a recall election that ends September 14th, will have 30 days to uphold the decision, reverse it, or send it back to the board.
Honestly, I'm still amazed that someone who assassinated a potential president, definitely a presidential candidate in this country, is even getting the opportunity to be paroled.
Well, what's really interesting, Dylan, is that one of Kennedy's sons, Douglas H. Kennedy, actually spoke in favor of Sirhan's parole. He said, quote, "I really do believe any prisoner who is found not to be a threat to themselves or the world should be released."
Well, I mean, that's certainly supposedly the entire setup of our system, right? And it's allegedly about reform. So it's been what, 50 some years?
Yeah. And he also said, he felt deeply moved by Mr. Sirhan's expression of remorse and that at times it brought tears to his eyes and affected him very deeply. So that's pretty interesting. Another son of Kennedy, Robert Jr., sent a letter to the parole board in support of Sirhan after learning that the LAPD had sent a letter opposing parole on behalf of the Kennedy family. And he was like, "I don't know who you think you're like speaking for with my family, but it's definitely not me."
Well, I would like to think that someone with the last name Kennedy knows what the family thinks about this more so than someone who wasn't even likely, definitely probably a kid or not even born when this tragedy happened.
Well, I stand corrected. It was actually a Los Angeles hotel, the Ambassador, not San Francisco. I don't know why I was thinking it was San Francisco, but it was LA. So what's really interesting, too, is that Robert Kennedy Jr. brought up the fact that his father was a very compassionate man and that the ideals of the justice system, the possibility of redemption, and the importance of forgiveness was something that his father really believed in, and it was a value he held very firm, and that he didn't believe the justice system was about revenge. So he feels like, his father would be happy with this decision. So that speaks volumes to me that the family feels this way.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's some pretty heavy support they're putting behind him possibly being released. So maybe that is having a very significant bearing on the decision of the board there. So, I mean, that makes sense, I guess. Yeah. Damn.
Yeah.
Dude, you think they should let Charles Manson out?
Should they have let Charles Manson out?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I have probably an unpopular opinion. I don't think Charles Manson should have been given a life sentence. I don't think he should have served all that time in prison. I think Charles Manson, when you look at the total picture, he was a product of his environment. I think this was a man who was in and out of the system, never stood a chance. And I think that, putting him back in to the system that just chews people up, spits them out, you didn't do him any favors. He wasn't rehabbed, but he shouldn't have been there in the first place. Like, he didn't physically kill someone. Blood was not on his hands.
Well,
I mean, and a lot of people are like, "Oh, well, he had programmed these people." You know what? They made a decision. They made that decision.
I mean, yes. What was there? Was Charles, especially before he just? I mean, let's be honest. In the last years, he was just, or all we got to see of him, he was just a cuckoo bird. He was, but I would argue that lengthy time in prison, knowing you'll never get out. Possibly.
Why would you not act like that?
Well, yeah, it would make you crazy.
Well, I would, if people, it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy or something. And I think with a lot of folks, if you're told your whole life you're nothing but a piece of shit, you're crazy. Well, when, Donahue comes to sit down and do an interview with you, I would act like a fucking nut too.
Well, I'm going to assume that Charlie didn't spend a lot of time in general population.
So, well, he's getting attention the more he acts out.
So he probably spent a lot of that time to himself, maybe kept with the death row inmate, just because of who he is. People are going to be like, "Hey, I killed Charles Manson," for his own protection in a way. So, I mean, all that solitary confinement possibly, that's going to affect your psyche for sure. But yeah, I don't think that his sentence fit his part in this crime.
I don't.
Did he have a part in it? Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not saying the guy was completely innocent, but did he deserve a life sentence? No.
These people he was surrounded himself with, would they have went on to commit other crimes or murder people without, if they'd have just like met Charlie and moved on, or never met Charlie? Possibly.
Who's to say, though?
Because but who's to, yeah, I mean, they're in these drug-induced psychoses and acid and all these psychedelics where things do get very subjective and into deep layers of your mind. I could see that argument too, but yeah, I think he definitely got a heavier sentence than maybe he deserved.
Well, and I mean, when you look at the Manson girls, you know, everybody just talks about the Manson girls. If you look at these women and you think about the violence that was that happened with these crimes, with the Sharon Tate murders and the LaBianca killings, that was extreme violence.
It was very brutal and vicious.
And you've got a pregnant woman and you're murdering like 4 or 5 people at a time. I mean, I'm sorry, but I just don't think they were brainwashed. They fucking liked it. And they did that because they liked it and they wanted to do it.
Well, I mean, not one of them during this. So you can say, well, he got them high on acid and, you know, talked all this shit to them until they believed him. Okay, but every single one of them are all in. No one breaks ranks and like helps someone escape or says fucking stop doing this or kills one, you know, Tex or one of the other girls to save someone's life. Nobody wakes up in the middle of this like, this is fucking insane. We have to stop. They all go all in and no one, you know, breaks ranks. They all do whatever they're there to do, which is kill and murder everybody.
And then throughout trial, laugh. They think it's funny.
They weren't on drugs then.
I mean, I know there are folks out there who are going to disagree with us, and, you know, we've talked about cults before, and people have been insulted by what we've said, but I just really feel like you are responsible for your actions, and if you're so easily manipulated into fucking committing a brutal murder and, like, cutting a baby out of a woman kind of thing, you're fucked up. Like, you're just a fucked up person. Because there's nobody that's going to convince me to do that shit.
Well, I agree, and I would separate this from your typical cult setting in my book.
Well, it was basically a cult, though. What he did was like a cult and, like, you know, brainwashed these people or whatever. I mean, that's been the claim all these years. But I just have a feeling that they relished in it, they enjoyed it, and they probably would have done some shit with or without him.
I think there's a high likelihood that that's possible.
But just the sadistic nature of the crime, it's not like they went and shot somebody quickly. I mean, this was fucking drawn out, torturous.
No, this is evil, and I would think you could pluck any of the most devout members of all these other cults that are so, you know, the top 10 cults, and they wouldn't commit the violence that these people committed, even in a similar, you know, brainwashed setting, if you will, because they had that violence in them. I agree with what you're saying. I think the potential was there irregardless.
Oh, please don't say that.
That's a real fake word.
I hate that word.
Yeah, but I agree. And so who knows? Maybe we're stupid. Maybe people's like smacking their phone or whatever right now, like, oh, I don't agree. And that's fine. You know, that's what makes the world go around.
Yeah, everybody's entitled to their opinion. You know, this happens to be our podcast, so you're getting our opinion. But yeah, I mean, I don't think Charles Manson should have died in prison, especially when he's an old fucking man. I mean, what's he going to do when he's like old? When he's old, Charlie.
Well, and plus he's a pop icon. It's not like he could fly under the radar. He's got a fucking swastika carved in his head, bud.
Well, that's the other thing, too. I mean,
he's not going to trick somebody else.
Yeah, what's he going to go out and, you know, recruit other people and have like a commune that kills again? I mean, I just don't think, no. You put him on like supervised probation. You got him a fucking ankle monitor. Your probation officer up his ass constantly. I mean, just give him a little fucking apartment somewhere and tell him just get somewhere and get still. And he probably would have.
Give him some medical grade marijuana from California and get this guy a podcast.
Give him a guitar.
Holy shit.
Give him a record deal.
And make sure people don't steal his music this time.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's that.
I've got another interesting update on some true crime here, Dylan. Actually, I think we covered this like a while back. As an opener, there was a Pennsylvania DJ who confessed to a 1992 murder of an elementary school teacher, and now he's trying to withdraw his guilty plea.
Wow, I wonder what led to his confession in the first place. Was it new evidence? I wonder. I don't know that.
Raymond Charles Rowe is 52 years old, and this is in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. He told the court that he's innocent on the charges of murdering Christy Merrick. She was found beaten, choked, and raped in her home on December 21st, 1992. She was a sixth grade teacher in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. She was 25 at the time of her death. Soon after her murder, of course, the case went nowhere, went cold for many years. But Rowe was a disc jockey who had performed under the pseudonym DJ Freeze, and in January of 2019, he confessed. He was arrested a year earlier after detectives linked his DNA found on some chewing gum and a water bottle that he had discarded during a gig that he had played at an elementary school. And they ultimately were able to basically identify his DNA as part of this. And he said that he had a half sister who lived near where this young woman was killed.
Wow. So it sounds to me like the cold case investigators, for whatever reason, keyed on him, and they followed him until they obtained his DNA from a sample from something he discarded, which is completely legal, just like they can dig through your trash when you put it on the curb. So that's very interesting.
Well, he is now saying that he wants to withdraw his guilty plea, that he didn't do it. Of course, the district attorney is like, so I'm supposed to believe a liar?
Yeah, so you're saying you lied.
Yeah.
What else are you lying about?
He was like, well, free will and being forced to do things by treatment and threats are two different things. So he's, I guess, trying to allude to the fact that they forced him into a confession or something.
Well, and that's not impossible, but if his DNA matches the DNA found on the victim, I mean, I don't know what else we're talking about.
Well, he's now claiming that he had a consensual sexual relationship with the school teacher. He admitted to having sex with her hours before she was murdered, but then said, of course, he didn't have anything to do with her murder.
Yeah, those pieces of shit always sully the name and the character of their victims when they're not here to defend themselves.
He wants some further DNA testing on some key pieces of evidence. There was a cutting board that was used to bludgeon the young woman, a toaster, and a sweater that she was wearing at the time. So he is trying to urge the judge to further test that or those pieces of evidence for DNA.
Well, I mean, if I studied this case and knew all the ins and outs, maybe I would, but I don't. I'm going to err on the side of caution and say he's a fucking shitbird. They finally caught up with his ass, and now he's having second thoughts about going to prison.
Well, I think we all, as true crime aficionados, we've all heard these types of stories before where, hey, we find this evidence, DNA. Clearly, you've had sex with this person. We've got your DNA, that's sperm or whatever. And then these guys are like, oh, I didn't do that. Well, they did. And it's such a rare event that you're going to have sex with someone and then just by some stroke of bad luck, they're going to get murdered and it's going to be your DNA in them. I mean, I think those cases are so fucking rare that it's almost like unbelievable.
Yeah, not to say that's never happened. I'm sure that's happened.
But it's like, you would have to have like you'd have to have like our luck. We always joke about we have the Packer luck, right?
You're a Packer now.
Yeah, so we'd have to have like Packer luck for something like that to happen.
Well,
I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible, but I'm just like, seriously, bro, like it's probably like a 99% chance that something like that happened.
It's certainly improbable
in this case.
And I would be curious to know if the only DNA evidence is from, say, the rape kit, or if there's any touch DNA or any other DNA evidence at the crime scene, like, say, from under her fingernails or on her clothing, all that different stuff, and or blood, fingerprints and such, bloody fingerprint, which I'm sure they would mention.
Let's just say they had a consensual sexual relationship, right?
Okay, so he works around schools. He's a DJ at the schools. Yeah, the kids like, in like second and third grade, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so
I know. I'm like, what's he? He's like DJing, like wiki wiki wiki, Baby Shark. Do 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 do.
He was doing the early on version of that.
Some. He was like remixing some Raffi.
And so he catches the eye of the 6th grade teacher, right? Because he's so fucking cool because he's a DJ, right?
He's pretty fly for a white guy.
Yeah, and so then they would just hook up randomly because, whatever, this is how it works in his head, and have a consensual sexual encounter. And then he leaves, and just a stroke of bad luck, some monster comes in and bludgeons her to death with various objects from around her house. And so it's just I could see how that totally works. Don't you?
Yeah, well, there's that song by Chanel, I Fell in Love with a DJ.
Oh my gosh.
Anywho, I just find it hard to believe that this hypothetical theory or situation where he's having sex with her at her house and then he departs and then some random person just happens to break in her house and kill her for like no reason, but here's his DNA.
Here's the kicker. Here's what the one event that makes it definitely not true in my book. You never approached authorities. This woman you just had a sexual encounter with, who you must have liked her, right? To go so far as to have and not be like, oh my God, what happened? But I want you to know that I knew her. I was around her right before her death. Can I do anything to help? Did I see a strange person in the area, a suspicious person? This is how she was when I left her. This is what time it was. Does that help with your investigation in any form or fashion?
You make a great point, Dylan.
Doom. Boom. Done.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Exactly. Plus, this guy just sort of looks like a fucking shitbird.
Let me see him.
Okay, I'll find his picture here in just a second.
Yeah, let me see this guy.
But, yeah.
The show must go on.
I think that, he's probably just full of shit.
Well, I think he's definitely full of shit. And I really hate when these people say what the victims did or didn't do. Or they always want to make a woman out like having loose morals or being slutty or some shit. That guy is a piece of shit.
He's got like a really douchey haircut.
Okay,
he's older and he's just trying too hard to be hip.
He would be an extra in like a C action movie.
You think so?
Yep.
Yep.
Definitely.
I'm just wondering who the fuck he's trying to be. It's like, I don't know.
He's trying too hard to be like hip old guy.
Sort of got like a pompadour thing going on or something. I don't know.
Maybe that's left over from the DJ life.
I guess.
It's not easy.
Being sleazy.
Being a DJ.
Being DJ Freezy.
Oh, yeah. Damn, thanks for that.
Yeah.
I can't believe I was missing that this whole time.
I know.
DJ Freezy?
Well, it's Freeze.
DJ Freeze?
Yeah, but you were just saying it's not easy. So I was like, it's not easy being DJ Freezy.
And that's how DJs do. That's what the DJ life's all about.
Is getting them crunk at the wedding, playing like some Sweet Caroline.
Yeah, but you know what? More likely that story is he maybe did meet the teacher. I don't know her relationship status at the time. And maybe she invited him over, or maybe she at some point blew him off, and it pissed him off because he's a fragile little bitch, right? He has this fragile. That's what kills me about these men with these fragile masculinity.
I can just tell by looking at this guy's face that he's like someone who has something to prove, right? Like he's just trying too hard.
These guys who get rejected and fly into this rage where they, wake up a day later and they've already chopped the body up and all this shit. I mean, how fragile of a person are you that mild rejection can send you into this type of fury?
Yeah, I don't know. I would rather not think about it.
I'm not like that.
It just makes me want to stab somebody.
I'll just be like, what else when I get rejected?
Yeah.
I'll be like, you just missed the D train, girl.
It's leaving the station.
You're going to be left at the station with all these other normies.
So when you're saying that, like the D train, all I can imagine is you, but like as a Thomas the Train character.
That's what I am.
And like the narrator, and it's like, Sir Topham Hatt told Dylan he could go to the Tidmouth station and get a wash down.
Yeah, that's the likely that's the likely scenario. That was not the Dick train. That was not code for the Dick train. It's just the D train. It's like a nice, comfortable train at a reasonable
I
price.
was going to say it's a reasonable ticket price.
Reasonable ticket price, but
Comfortable seating.
you can count on it to get you where you're going.
Yeah.
Reliable. Yeah.
Might be a little slower than like, the monorail train or something. I don't know.
Yeah, but people's going to...
I don't know anything about trains.
When people move on to the newer, it's a late 70s model
My
train.
extensive knowledge of trains, again, all relates to Thomas because my child was obsessed with Thomas the Train forever.
That'll affect this bit just a little bit, but not too bad. So you got this late 70s model train, 78 model train, but people are going to miss the nostalgia. Just the friendliness of the people who've been manning this train for 40 years. Just the, cuddly, nice conductor who gently asks you for your tickets, never accuses you of anything, no matter what color you are.
Mr. Conductor?
Yeah.
Again, I just think of Thomas the Train. And you know what, Dylan? You would actually make a perfect Thomas the Train character because you've got that big fucking head. And they all have like the big faces, and you've got a big fucking face. And I just love in the the little claymation shit, and they're like make little frowny faces and stuff. Yeah.
So the dudes, the artist would be like, it's already to scale.
Yeah.
We don't even have to scale this up, guys.
Yeah.
Just put that big head right there on front of the train, that face.
What color would your engine be?
It'd be hunter green.
Okay.
Because it's my favorite color.
Gotcha.
I don't know why.
Well, there's already like several green engines, so I feel like you gotta like be a different color.
Well, in my later life, I've been rocking like the bright colors, dude. So I can just be like pink. I'm taking pink back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You look great in pink.
You know what? It's funny how pink threatens men.
Does it? Well, you've told me that. You say that you have a pink Golden Girls t-shirt.
So I wear these different t-shirts. It'd be like workers' rights, Heather makes me all these great shirts. I have one that's a satanic temple. I just like to mess with the management to a degree. And plus I get to wear whatever I want as long as I'm not violating company rules, right? Just like everybody else. It's all about freedom of expression. But the one that I get the most comments and like, I don't know how you wear that, is my pink Golden Girls t-shirt that has all the gals on it. It says stay golden.
Well, women love it.
It's from Walmart.
Every time that Dylan has worn this shirt in public, women love it. They're like, oh my God, I love the gold. Oh, that's so cute. Like they love that you're wearing this, right?
Yeah, I need a new one.
But guys give you the look.
Like there's like, I'm just like, well, dude, why couldn't you wear a pink t-shirt? I don't get what you're saying. But it's a sign of that fragile male masculinity, and typically it's the guys who try to be so, these are the same guys that'll be like, oh, like if you're like, oh yeah, I had to shave the boys up, get cleaned up for my lady. They're like, oh, and you're like, what? You don't groom yourself? And then they'll be complaining that their wife.
I'm a real man, I don't do that.
Yeah, and then they'll be complaining that their wife only gives them fellatio a time or two a year on birthdays and Christmas.
We're really having this conversation. Okay.
Yeah, and if you want your wife to do that more often, she may just not be into it, which is fine, male or female. If you're not into whatever, oral, don't do it. But if she might be into it, she's just not into your fucking big stanky jungle, bro.
It's a stanky jungle?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that could be a great t-shirt.
Stanky jungle?
Yeah.
That could actually be a great name for like a band.
Punk band?
Hey, come see Stanky Jungle live tonight.
Yeah, but if you clean your shit up, keep yourself really fresh and appropriate and presentable.
Appropriate? Like it's wearing a top hat? Is that appropriate?
She may allow
What's that even mean?
To put it in her face more often.
Once again, you have derailed the conversation with talk of dicks and apparently bushes.
Yes, the surrounding area.
You know what, Dylan?
Said
There's
dick.
a lot of folks out there who are au naturel, and if that's your thing, that's great. Just put a little patchouli oil on that shit, and be free. Okay.
Just brush it out. Maybe some little curlers.
Condition it.
Yeah, that's probably gonna help.
Your little pelt.
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay, so where do we go next?
Well, gee, I don't know. I mean, at this point, I have no, I have no words for you.
And so, yeah, I mean, Heather's doing a couple little solo projects, podcasts, and I think that's really cool. I think it's a natural thing if you keep podcasting to expand into other subject matter. So I had an idea for mine because I'm never going to be able to well-research, structure a show the way she does. I just can't do it. That's why I play my part. It's a small part. and just kind of ride her coattails on the research and story.
You play a part, it's a small part, and then you often talk about your part.
Yeah, well, there's lots of parts. But no, so I had an idea for one that might work for me. Okay, I'm going to run it past our listeners
Is it
now.
a sex-positive podcast?
That's a good idea. And I would love to
Where
hype
you
people
just-
up.
Yeah, grooming and...
Well, I could just bring in like guests and like be like, oh, okay, look, this is what you need to do to get, this result.
Oh my God, now you're a pickup artist? Gross.
Ooh. Here's how you can psychologically manipulate women and trick them into liking you. What the fuck is that?
That's a fucking weird culture.
It's so weird. Okay. But no, I want to do a podcast that is really just like random things I think of during the day.
Oh God.
Or the way my brain, and I want to call it, you told me to call it Derailed, starring Dylan and Heather.
I mean, why do
because
I have to be part of this?
I need you there to bounce these random thoughts off of.
No, this is just our life, Dylan. Like, you are
No.
constantly bouncing these random thoughts
I
off
know.
of me. It's exhausting.
And
okay?
oftentimes you're like, why aren't we recording this? Because I don't even know what you're talking about anymore, but it's like kind of funny or something. Like just me and you talking about it's funny. So there, I'm going to try it, guys and gals. I'm going to try to put it together. It will have no structure. It'll have no sense of purpose. It'll be called Derailed, and it'll be starring me and Heather.
But if you just like listening to Dylan talk about random shit, it'll work, right? I mean, you have some fans.
There we go.
You got some fans out there that probably listen to you read the label off the back of a macaroni cheese box. I don't know.
That's actually a really good idea. Try that. And I don't even know what category to be in. Social commentary?
Yeah, personal blogs.
Comedy?
I don't know.
Okay. So I believe we've, speaking of the train, I believe we're pulling back into the station. I believe we made a full loop on this one. And we've seen all the sights that are allowed to see.
Okay.
Right?
Right.
And
Okay. Well, so we've been all around Sodor, and now we're pulling in the station.
was that the name of Thomas's area?
They lived on Sodor. It's an island.
Oh, interesting. So they needed a train to move stuff around the island.
Yeah,
Multiple
and then like
trains.
Sir Topham Hatt gave the orders and stuff.
He was corporate.
And there was Mr. Conductor.
The man.
He
working
didn't
for the
actually
man.
have a name. It was just like Mr. Conductor. And then there's like all the characters.
all the different trains.
Like I really liked Creaky. He was a crane, and he was like really grouchy. Yeah.
Oh my God.
And then he like worked with a guy named Salty that like was down at the like shipyards or something because he was salty because of the ocean, you know?
You know this shit inside and out, don't you?
James's shiny red engine.
Damn.
And there's Gordon. He's very like pompous.
Tell me you were forced to watch something over and over and over and over again for an extended period of time without telling me that.
Dude, I could probably recite the book Percy's Chocolate Crunch just by memory.
Wow. Well, I'm glad you had that dedication. You put that time into your son. Because some people be like, get out here with that bullshit, kid. And you really lived it. So I thank you for that.
Yeah, it was like my own personal hell. His dad and I finally mutually agreed after like many years of like the same Thomas the Train videos and like, oh my God, I had such a small fortune invested in that shit that I could probably own like a damn Rolls Royce right now. That's just expensive.
So you agreed to move away from that.
Yeah, he was like, I'm just getting rid of all this shit because I'm so over it. So
I want you to do it too. Maybe it'll stick.
yeah, and it kind of did, but then sometimes he'll still be like, I'm going to watch Thomas the Train. And I'm like, oh my God, okay.
Yeah. Well, you know how the kids are.
Can't you just be normal and watch some porn or something? I'm just kidding.
Ha. Well.
But okay. Enough. Okay, so that was some good true crime news, Dylan. And we're going to be back on Sunday with a brand new case suggested by a patron. I'm telling you, I have a list of excellent cases. And this is a story that I had no knowledge of. But it's so fascinating, and I think our listeners are really going to enjoy it, especially our true crime, like really, really dedicated true crime fans, because this is going to be a case, like I said, you've probably never heard before. It's going to blow your mind.
Yeah, I must say, our listeners are bringing some bangers, man.
Some bangers.
They're returning the favor, and you've always tried to put out cases people never heard of. Now they're giving you cases back you've never heard of.
I know! I'm excited because I love when I find out about a new case, and it's just like, wow! Like, especially, you know, something that's just so out there, shocking. So I'm excited because it's just something that's so different.
Yeah, and so we have some friends out there. It seems like stuff's happening to everybody we know.
Man, it seems like everybody lately has had some shit happen. Like
I won't
the
mention any
blues,
names
man.
or anything, but I think everyone gets what we're saying.
It's just
If it's
experiencing
not world events,
sadness and tragedy
it's
and
personal
just
tragedies.
bad things happening to good people.
And me and Heather always talk about the kind of chaotic, negative energy that seems to be infiltrating every aspect of everyone's lives
It's
nowadays.
like manifesting all around us.
Yeah, so we don't know what that is. We can't name it.
Chaos magic.
But what we can do is you can personally try to cleanse yourself. Heather's practicing with meditation right now. She's really digging it. I want to get into that because I think there's times when I could meditate, it would improve my situation directly in that moment. And so I want to try some of that. And so all you can do is try to stay safe and take care of yourself. Self-care is not a bad word. If you need a minute, you need a day, take that fucking day. Those dishes, that house, any of that's going to be waiting. As long as your kids are happy and safe, take time for yourself.
Well, some people say that this podcast is a form of self-care.
Well, and we appreciate...
When they get a few minutes away from the family, the kids, the job.
I know I use podcasts in the same manner, and it's a great honor to me and Heather to be included in that for other people.
Yeah, we appreciate infecting your ear holes each week.
I love crawling up in their ear holes.
Twice a week.
I mean, for real.
You are like a little earworm, Dylan.
I guarantee you, in the areas where we have more listeners than, compared to other areas, there's like a uptick in penicillin sales. You know what I'm saying? Because of all the ear infections.
Because you have that infectious mouth.
Wait, that's amoxicillin. Wait, what do they give for ear? I don't know. They give you an ear infecting shot.
You're just like derailing the thing again. I don't even know what you're talking about. Okay, it's time to wrap up. We've been trying to wrap up for 20 minutes. All right. Hope everybody has a great week. Right?
Yeah.
Stay safe out there. Like we talked about earlier, a lot of folks experiencing inclement weather, tons of rain, flooding, that sort of stuff from this hurricane coming through. We hope everybody's safe out there. Hang tight, the storm will pass.
Literally.
Yeah. For real. Drop us an email, mountainmurderspodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And if you're feeling froggy, look us up on Patreon. We've got a lot of bonus content there. Ad-free always, and extra episodes, stuff you've never heard before, Discord chat. It's really fun.
Yes, join us.
Oh, that's like, are you Charles Manson now?
I'm going to do like the Evil Dead demon. Join us. Dead by dawn. Dead by dawn.
Okay.